Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Hi, Philip. Thank you for confirming. Thanks for joining. We'll start in a few. Happy Saturday to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Hope you all are having a great start of the weekend here. We'll give it a few minutes here before we begin. I usually do live streams for about an hour. So just hold on to your thoughts, perspectives, requests, any questions. Just leave it in the chat and then we can definitely cover it. So we'll start in a few here. Where is everyone watching from? Where are you from, Philip? That's great, Seattle. Happy Saturday. My guess is it's slowly warming up in the Seattle area. I'm also on the West Coast out here in the Bay Area, California. So Santa Clara is where I'm based out of. All right, so we can go ahead and get started. Well, I'm grateful for all of you joining here. Thank you. We'll be covering a lot today. Let me know what your questions are, what requests you have. Hi, Parker. Paul, thank you for joining from the UK. My guess is it's getting darker over in the UK area. Thanks for joining here. So we'll be covering, just updates around Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and the miners. We'll be looking at technical analysis as well. But we also just had Michael Saylor speaking at the Crypto Summit, just highlighting the 21 truths of Bitcoin here. I think what we have to keep in mind is that since Bitcoin creation, I mean, Bitcoin has been around for, 1.5 decades now. We're hearing a lot more about Bitcoin. And I'm thinking that at one point, the United States, they're trying to figure out how do we buy more Bitcoin without impacting, the citizens with increasing taxes. And that may be just realizing the gains on the current reserve with gold and using that to buy Bitcoin. So here, just Bitcoin is an ideology. Bitcoin is a protocol. Bitcoin is an asset. Bitcoin is a network. Bitcoin is immaculate. Bitcoin is ethical. Bitcoin is a commodity. Bitcoin is a digital commodity. Bitcoin is digital scarcity. Bitcoin is digital gold. Bitcoin is digital money. Bitcoin is perfect money. Bitcoin is legitimate. Bitcoin is corporate. Bitcoin is global. Bitcoin is immortal. Bitcoin is digital energy. Bitcoin is a digital energy network. Bitcoin is a digital economic system. Bitcoin is a digital defense system. Bitcoin is an emerging solar system. So there you have it. Saylor giving us the 21 truths of Bitcoin. So definitely some bullish comments on Bitcoin. All right, so we have Roshan here with comments as well. So thank you for putting in the comments there. And any questions that you have, please put it in the chat. We'll definitely talk about it. I'll be covering, Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, the Bitcoin miners. We'll be covering technical analysis. But one of the interesting things is, Bitcoin hovering around the 84,000 right now. I think this is a good key indicator. In fact, I actually bought some Bitcoin today at around the $84,000 range. Just with the last 7 days, we've been just seeing consolidation. This is what we want to see. We don't want to see any huge volatilities. I think if Bitcoin can maintain the 84,000, come next week, we may very well see some bullish activities going on with the Bitcoin miners and MicroStrategy. I'll explain why I am bullish on those stocks. I'll give you my overall perspective, but we'll also cover technical analysis of Bitcoin. But good to see we're seeing consistent hovering around that 84,000, especially with that recent top off. Just with that retracement from like January, where we see this consistent downward retracement. But I think now we're seeing consolidation. So one thing to keep in mind is we just had our recent halving event. We're getting close to it, about 11 months since that halving event. But what tends to happen every halving event, we tend to have Bitcoin start going up where the relative strength starts shooting up. We haven't even seen the relative strength of Bitcoin kick in yet. So I think we may very well be positioned for Bitcoin to make a run here. And Tom Lee, we've heard about Tom Lee. He's forecasting that come April 2nd, when we get more updates on the tariff news that gets enacted between the different countries, that may very well drive upside where Wall Street is going to react to that as positive news here. And good news with the Federal Reserve updates that we got, we're anticipating that quantitative easing is beginning. What does that mean? That means there's going to be more liquidity, more cash flow injected into the economy. And what does that mean? Risk on assets like Bitcoin is going to perform very well, and the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. In fact, I actually bought Bitcoin this morning because of the nice stability that I'm seeing with the price. But here's an article from CoinMarketCap here in that Bitcoin's bullish cycle intact, why market signals point to a rebound. I just want to quickly just highlight, one of the key leading indicators that I like looking for is like the M2 global supply here. It's a leading indicator to let us know where we intend to see price of Bitcoin. So in orange is the price of Bitcoin, in blue is the money supply. One of the key things is that the global M2 money supply, since January, we've been seeing that upward motion here. So we're beginning to see more liquidity all around the world here across the different banks. And what does that mean? Bitcoin tends to have like a 2-month delay behind M2 supply, but it tends to correlate with the performance and the behavior for how money supply moves. So as money supply increases, which we've seen over the past couple months here, we're expected to see Bitcoin price to follow that. So that is very bullish news. All right, so I'm just gonna just look here in the chat here. So is Mara and CleanSpark diluting? Tired of owning the share of both Mara and CleanSpark. So I'm with you. I understand. I'm also a shareholder of those two miners as well. It's tough. Yes, I understand. but you only lose when you sell. And I think that at one point we're going to have some comebacks, and I'll share with you my reasons why I believe we're going to see some bullish run-ups here. And it's not only just Mara CleanSpark. We've seen the entire mining sector get like flushed out recently, right? I think retails are getting shaken out, but understand that big time holders like BlackRock, you know, they're big time financial institutions that own these stocks here. So I wouldn't worry so much, but we'll cover those technical analysis as well, and I'll give you my overall predictions on the price. So another view here, M2 global supply. So key thing is like since January, you see here, January in pink M2 supply, it's been going up. So we see a rate of increase, like over 3% year over year growth rate. That means a lot of money. We're talking about the entire world here out of the top 21 central banks. So when there's more money in the M2 supply, that means Bitcoin price is just going to follow that. So this is looking very bullish here. So thank you for all of you who've joined so far. We have a number of people here. I would encourage you to put your questions, comments in the chat, and we'll definitely cover all of those updates. So I'll be monitoring the chats as we go. But any questions you have, we'll definitely cover that. So just looking at the overall weekly charts of Bitcoin here. So one of the key indicators I want to highlight is that it's been many months since we've had two consistent weeks of green candles. Okay, so we ended the last 2 weeks with positive net here. Now I'm forecasting that we're going to see that MACD just flip the switch. We're going to see a bullish divergence MACD here, where the EMA short term is going to cross the long term 26 EMA, as well as relative strength index kick in. So what do I mean by that? So as we have a more zoomed in view, let's take a look at the daily chart here. You'll be able to see that. As we look at the daily here, we see the EMA cross here on the near term perspective, relative strength at one point, hugely oversold. But when you look at the weekly, MACD, we don't see that yet. But on the daily, we're seeing that switch on here with the MACD increase. I think all of that's going to lead to this reversal, flip the switch with the MACD technical momentum indicator kick in, where hopefully we'll see this slope continue to be a steeper slope, where, let's say, for example, we see a more steeper slope than where we currently are right now. So hopefully we see that coming in place. All right, so Paul Parker, if Bitcoin goes to around 130K, a big retracement may be due. Then what percentage of MSTR pot would you sell, or would you just hold all? So great question. I think, Paul, it all comes down to, when we look at MSTR, I'm going to bring that chart up here. So obviously we saw a big run up for MicroStrategy in 2024. In fact, during that November time, that was like a 800% year to date performance. I was forecasting at this big run up, because it ran up so much with these godlike candles here. Take profits, right? So anytime, doesn't matter if it's, if it 1000% gain, 200% gain, if it shoots up this high within a limited amount of time, take profits. Why? Doesn't matter how strong of a company you are. Eventually we're going to see the relative strength blow off a bit, right? The steam is going to have to dissipate a bit. So it really depends. Like, let's say if it goes up slowly over time, I think you just take advantage of that. But anytime when the relative strength on the daily, just kicks into gears, where you see a big godlike candle, we'll definitely see some reduction in the price. That's just how it works. So taking profits is definitely a way to minimize risk. And I think for those who held long here, was heavily impacted. In fact, I actually bought at like, you know, um, the high 380s as well. But you seeing it drop down to 220, I mean, that was difficult. So I think it all just depends on your investment style. But I think what we're seeing here is relative strength is beginning to kick into gears here, keeping as we see price action breaking out of that bull flag here. So I think we're gonna see a new support level at the 340 level, which will be good news for MicroStrategy here. All right, so with that, I want to just play a quick clip of Bo Hines here. All right, so I hope that video gave you some color there on just the overall updates on where we're headed. Okay, taking a look at the Bitcoin space race here. So, obviously we see the United States, it's like neck to neck with China here. USA just with a handful more of Bitcoin based on how much the government holds. So it'll be interesting here. I think it's really going to be a race for who has the most Bitcoin. So with the Bitcoin Act that Senator Cynthia Lummis proposed, hopefully we can have the United States start buying up more and more Bitcoin here. So we'll take a look at Mara's price action here. So yes, it's been very painful here just seeing price of Mara. I mean, at one point $30 around that time when Trump got elected as president here, and since then it's been just hovering in this bullish pennant flag. Relative strength back in February, it reached an all-time low. We haven't got to this point where it was significantly oversold, but I think taking advantage of these prices here, especially with you know um, the long-term EMA, just being above the short-term EMA here. But it was up until recently where we see this convergence between the bear and the bull momentum signal here. But I think eventually we're going to see a breakout here. There's no way for a price to be heavily suppressed, especially with Bitcoin expected to ramp up here. I think all of the news around tariffs, all of that's going to, at one point be dissipated. And we've heard from Jerome Powell that, you know, this is going to be like a short-term type of thing. It's not going to have a long-term impact. And Jerome Powell, like any updates from him, can really drive the stock market, as well as with Tom Lee forecasting that come April, we're going to see, a bull run in the Wall Street and Bitcoin market. What does this mean for Mara? I think as we head into the new quarter, Q2, Q1 was a total beatdown, but I think Q2, Q3, Q4, we may very well see, Mara, just go off to the races here. I think miners were beginning to see some, price action, especially like with Riot. Riot's been heavily beat down as well. But one of the key things that we see here is for every drawdown with the price, that's after a big RSI run up, right? So like back in 2023 when price was at $20, we saw that big price suppression where RSI got oversold. What happened? It got overbought again. What happened? Oversold. What happened? Overbought. Oversold. Overbought. Oversold. Overbought. What about now? It's been pushed out for quite some time, since like November to almost end of March now. There's only going to be an overbought situation here where I'm drawing out that sometime in this time frame here, we're going to see that overbought kick in. And what does that mean? We're going to see the price go back into the double digits. It's purely just technical analysis. I think miners are really going to kick into gears here. Why? We take a look here, the SEC updates, Securities Exchange. I think this draws a lot more regulatory clarity from the finance committee from the SEC, in that the work that's done by the miners, where they're like solving mathematical problems with all of their mining machines, all of that, the proof of network is considered protocol mining, and any rewards that are provided to Bitcoin miners, whether it's through Bitcoin or other means of commodity, that's not considered a security. So what does that mean? Now miners don't have to register with the SEC with their rewards as an investment security. So that takes away the regulatory burden. What does that mean? That draws more confidence for these Bitcoin miners, as well as the ability to potentially reduce tax implications. So it's kind of like when you mine a Bitcoin, you have to pay taxes on that, as well as when you sell the Bitcoin, you have to pay taxes on that. Granted, a cost to mine is much lower, but I think with this whole new SEC reform change, this really takes away the regulatory burden here for the Bitcoin miners. And this hasn't even been priced in yet from my perspective. All right. So, Paul, I hope that answered your question. You're welcome on that comment. Ben Weeks, do you think miners were so much negativity out there? MSTR and ETFs taking all the liquidity. I think CleanSpark will find it hard to get to 15 if Bitcoin goes to 120K. So, Ben, I'm with you. I totally understand. It's tough. I'm with you, especially hearing all the negativity going on with the miners. But just keep in mind, it's not just, you think about like Hut 8, BitDeer, all right, they were like the workhorses in 2024. But when you look at 2025 so far, there's no workhorse. All of the miners are getting beat down here. But at one point, as we head into the new quarter, it's not going to continue to get beat down anymore. I mean, how much lower can it go? These things are at that basement low already, especially with Bitcoin getting to all-time high. It's only going to, change in direction. Why? Just based on technicals, I mean, things go down very fast, but it could just pop up very fast. And I think the direction can just change within a matter of a week, where the psychology, the emotions can change right away, where confidence can just build up right away. So again, this isn't investment advice. I'm with you. It's painful, but over time, things are just going to bounce back. It's just, when we think about the analogy of planting the seed, we can't always just dig up the seed and then just check on it on every instance. We have to let it grow, similar to like Bitcoin. Granted, the miners, there's more volatility, but I think that, there's going to be bounce back in the near term here is what I'm getting at. All right, but thank you for your question there. All right, so let's see. Richard Rhodes, my question is with MSTR, how much profit do you take and do you sell at dollar costs or shares? Okay, so that's a great question. So it really just depends on what your strategy is. I I, I really do think that where we are with MicroStrategy here, it's definitely undervalued. Is what I'm getting at. I mean, we've seen how high it ran up to 550, but I think that even in 2025, as Bitcoin price reaches new levels, I'm thinking somewhere around that sweet spot of like 180K. Uh, you know, that that's like, a little more than basically another 1x, basically 1.2x. So that's not like very like hard for it to do. With Bitcoin doubling up, what does it mean for strategy? I think that it can go up by like 4x in this year. So it just really depends on your style, your overall investment strategy. Um, it just comes down to that. But overall, I think it just depends. Like, are you going to be selling like 30% of your overall MSTR hold? Are you going to sell all of it? But I think taking profits is always a good thing, but it'll just suck when it you sell and then it just continues to go up, and then when you look in hindsight, you're scratching your head like, oh my gosh, why did I sell? But you know what? It's always better to take profits than not. But I do forecast that as Bitcoin hits 180K, 200K in this year 2025, MSTR may very well break into that $1,200 range. I think what we're seeing is that we may get the EMA bullish divergence coupled with the relative strength trending up here. I think that we're going to see a new support here. The prior resistance of like 350, we may start seeing the new support kick into gears here, like as we head into April, where it'll start hovering around that new support of like the mid 300s, and then we'll see that next leg up. But any run up, price can definitely just shoot up here. All right, so Ben Weeks holding 1,400 shares of CleanSpark. Hope for $20. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I really appreciate it, and appreciate the question as well. Hi, JMC Jason. Thank you for joining, man. I hope you're doing well in Michigan. All right, so very great questions here on the discussions, but let's just take a look at just overall Bitcoin price here. 184,192, definitely hovering here. Uh, Also, I just wanted to give you guys my personal record here. Last week, I was able to get 5 plates on the deadlift here. It's taken many years to get to this level, and very happy. Here, I tried 325 on the bench. I got it up halfway, but I failed. My personal record is 320. So hopefully today at the gym, I'll be working out. Hopefully I can get this number. But yeah, I think we're definitely at a good state. Just looking at Bitcoin price here, 84,000. So just with everyone's perspective, how high can Bitcoin go? Let me just create a poll here. There was that psychological barrier of like 100K, and all of a sudden we saw Bitcoin break that not too long ago. So 200K, it's still in that same digit value. It's just doubling that. So I think it's much difficult to break through that 100K psychological barrier than 200K. But would love to just see what everyone's response is. All right, so let's take a look at Bitcoin here. On the daily, Bitcoin, where are you headed? So we're looking at the log view here, but very interesting take back during September. You know, with the whole like creation of ETFs, you see here like around that 40K here, like at that sub 40K early January of 2024, it ran up from like 40K to like 70K. That was all because of the ETF creation. So let me just circle that area. So that whole region right there was the creation of like ETFs. Very interesting times here. And then how long did we consolidate for? I mean, that was like from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, 7, 8. I mean, almost like 75% of the entire year was where we just saw consolidation. And then, just now, just 1, 2, 3, 4. So like over 4 months of consolidation now. But I think that it's good to see consolidation here. And I think with the EMA short term popping up here, we're beginning to see the potential run up here for the price of Bitcoin. I think that we may very well just see a run up. All right, so it looks like we have a couple of votes here, but I'm just going to end the poll. All right, so I'm gonna have to end the live chat here. I actually have to get ready and get going, but just first off, thank you guys. I really appreciate you all joining here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I just released a video, so take a look at that as well. So thank you guys. Happy Saturday.